I've just skipped through the reading there, which was linked to the stretching challenge there, guys. So this next part of the lesson is to do with mandalas. So I think this is a really lovely part of the lesson, and I hope you enjoyed doing this if you had the opportunity to do so. So what you're supposed to do is read through the slides and answer the questions. So I'm going to answer those questions for you, so hopefully this will help. So first of all, what are mandalas? You can see there in the pictures, mandalas are pieces of artwork, either painted, sometimes they're made out of sand. They basically follow lots of set patterns and have lots of colours in them, and they're handmade. Every single part of them is made and put together. So why are they doing it, and how does it help? So one thing it does is it calms the mind down. And that obviously is good for a Buddhist because it's focusing the mind. Sometimes when they're doing the mandalas, they might focus on the Buddha's teachings, and they might incorporate that into their artwork. So they might put in maybe circles to do with karma. They might put in other things like that might do the eightfold path in there. So they might have a wheel with 8 parts on it, which symbolises the eightfold path. And it helps them to focus and to meditate on the Buddha's teachings towards enlightenment. Now, also, you might have seen these things before and thought, I've seen these loads and loads of times, and maybe you've seen mental health drawing books where you're supposed to colour in the different parts of mandalas, and it's supposed to help you with stress and things like that, because this comes from Buddhism. And sometimes if I'm ever in school and I'm talking to people who might be going through some things, I might say, have you tried this if you're getting really, really worked up, and so on, because it's used as a tool, quite a powerful tool to help anybody who's going through mental health problems or stress or anything like that, because it really slows your mind down and calms you down and helps you to go through basically reasoning what's going on in your head and come to terms with things. So it is, if you've managed to do this at home, hopefully this has helped you as well. It doesn't mean you're a Buddhist if you do these things. It just means that you really like the activity of colouring things and calming down for a little bit. So this is what a mandala is. But for a Buddhist, it's about calming the mind, creating self-discipline, and learning more and focusing more on the Buddha's teachings. It also has something else which is very important, which I'm going to talk to you about in the next few slides. At this point in the lesson, what you should have done, guys, is you should have answered those questions, had a go at doing the mandala if possible, and then think about this question for now. So just think about it. So how do you think a mandala teaches a Buddhist about impermanence? Okay, there's a bit of a clue there. I'm going to talk to you through it in the next few slides. Okay, this is the answer then to the previous question of how do mandalas teach about impermanence. Hopefully that picture is a really good visual picture for you to look at to give you the answer. So you can see there, the Buddhists who made this mandala, it looks like it's out of sand, they are destroying their mandala. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, if you have created your mandala, I want you to rip it up, destroy it. If you've drawn it, if you painted it, just rip it up and throw it in the air. And if somebody asks why you're making a mess, say it's part of my RE work. So why are they destroying it then? It teaches them about impermanence. Impermanence is a massive, massive part of Buddhism, which means impermanence is nothing lasts forever. In Buddhism, they call that anicca. So if they believe there's nothing in this world that's permanent. So I want you to try and think, actually, and I ask you to do this in class when I teach you guys, is try and think of something that will last forever in this world. Just try and think of something, because if you do, then you've broken the Buddhist beliefs there. So things, for example, like a cup. Like, I'm just randomly saw my cup of tea by the side of me. That cup isn't going to last forever. Somebody is going to break it and I'm going to be very upset about it. Or one day if I keep that for the whole of my life, when I pass away, somebody's going to have to find it. They might take it to a charity shop, or eventually it's going to break. Somebody's going to break it. Something else you could say, for example, houses. Just looked out my window and randomly seen a house. So even though that house is absolutely solid, if you don't look after it, it will eventually decay, it'll wear away, and to the point where it will just eventually, over hundreds of years, just become rubble and nothing. So when it talks about anicca, is that nothing lasts forever. It means both living and non-living things. So what's this got to do with mandalas then? So when a mandala is being made, the first thing is it helps calm the mind. Second thing is it helps them to focus on the Buddha's teachings. And the final act of destroying it helps them to come to terms with the fact that nothing lasts forever and that's just how life is. And when they destroy it, they're not bothered. That you can see them when they're doing it, they're at peace, and that they find it, in a way, they just accept it, because the Buddhist at that point understands that that's just how the world is. Whereas if you're looking at your mandala now and you've just spent maybe an hour making it all nice and colourful gel pens or whatever you've just done, you might be looking at it thinking, I don't want to rip this up, I want to stick it on my fridge. But if you're like that, that means that you haven't let go of your attachments, which in Buddhism is a really, really problematic thing. The aim of Buddhism is to let go of attachments, to realise how the world works and how it's basically all connected. And once you've done that, once you've accepted it and come to terms with that, you are very close to becoming enlightened, because an enlightened being realises all these things and how everything connects, and they accept it and they've come to terms with it. And that's why they're enlightened. It's like a light bulb moment. If you see in cartoons, when a light bulb goes off above people's heads, that's kind of similar to enlightenment. It just pings and they've got it. They understand everything. So that's why a Buddhist, should I say, destroys mandalas. It helps them realise that nothing lasts forever and come to terms with that. Okay, so I'm just going to go through the next few slides to see if there's anything else I need to say to you guys. This is the final activity I'm going to ask you to do in this lesson, guys. Now, this activity is in a way as well a revision activity. So if you're finding this quite tricky, that's a really good thing, because it's making you think over and over again about all of these different things that you've studied in the lessons so far. So what you're being asked to do is to explain which one of these things that you studied helps a Buddhist the most on their journey to enlightenment. So if you're looking at it and thinking, oh, I can't remember what Vipassana meditation is, you need to go back, read up on it, because that might be the one you think is the most important. So if you find it tricky, good, go back and revisit it and get it into your heads, because this is a really important task for you guys to do. So what I'm going to be doing now, because this video is about going over potential answers, is I'm going to go through each one and explain why you might think that these are the most important one in helping a Buddhist achieve enlightenment. So I'll start at mandalas. So you might argue a mandala is the most important practice in helping a Buddhist achieve enlightenment, because it calms the mind, is the first act that it does. You could say, in addition to that, it helps them focus on different parts of the Buddha's teachings, because you incorporate it into the artwork, you think about his teachings and you reflect on things as you are doing the artwork. And at the final end of the artwork, when you destroy it, it helps you to come to terms with the fact that nothing lasts forever, which is linked to the teaching of Anicca, which is ultimately something you have to achieve and understand and accept in order to be enlightened. Because if you don't accept that that's the way the world is, and you don't let go of your attachments, you can never be truly enlightened if you can't let go of your attachments. So you could say it helps in that final process, so that's why it's the most important. You could argue shrine worship is important because it allows a Buddhist something to focus on. It incorporates a lot of the Buddhist teachings and the key aspects of the religion within the symbols that are used. So you've got a lot of impermanence symbology within the shrine. So for example, the candles, they burn down, the incense burns down, the flowers will eventually wither and die. All of that symbolises impermanence. You've got the inspiration to look at through the Buddha. So that's one way it helps them to achieve enlightenment, because it allows them to focus on all these different hidden symbols and also gives them inspiration on what they need to do to get there. So it allows them to reflect and plan forward what they need to do. You could argue visualizations are the most important, because similar to what I've just said in the shrine, you could say that it allows them to focus on key people who have achieved enlightenment and get guidance on what they need to do in their lives to get there. So it allows them to stop, reflect and plan forward. You could argue that samatha meditation is the most important part or the most important practice in achieving enlightenment, should I say, because it allows, if you can't control your mind, you don't have a strong grip of being able to control it, to focus it, then you can't achieve enlightenment. So you could argue that breathing meditation, samatha meditation, is the key in achieving enlightenment, because you need to control the mind at every single part of your journey into enlightenment. You could argue chanting or mantras are the best, because chanting and mantra, well, chanting first of all, I'll break it up into two because they're obviously different. Chanting is where you repeat a scripture or saying over and over again. So that could help you on your journey to enlightenment, because that helps you focus on the Buddha's teachings and what is important. And if you don't understand it and you don't have master it, can you really achieve enlightenment if you don't understand the journey or the teachings? So you could argue that. Mantra, the reason I've split them up is they are different. A mantra is a sacred saying. So some Buddhists believe that they can trigger either a Buddha to be present or something very important to happen. So you could say, some people say that this is the most important way to enlightenment because it's got, in a way, special elements that help them achieve to get to enlightenment, that draw them closer to a Buddha or a teacher. So they have that special power in a way. You could argue, finally, that Vipassana meditation is the most important in getting to enlightenment, because Vipassana meditation is similar to Samatha, it's calming the mind, but it's deeper meditation where you focus on the Buddha's teachings and what you need to do to improve. So it's a time for self-reflection, deeper learning, and to set forward a plan that helps you progress in your path towards enlightenment. So what I've just done there, guys, is gone through each of them and said, if I was arguing these, which one I would have said is why they're more important for each one of them. Please remember that there are probably quite a few other different ways you could have argued that these are more important, because obviously we all think differently, we come up with different ideas. So if you haven't heard your answer, don't think that it's wrong. As long as you've argued it and it makes sense and you're obviously getting it right, so you're not saying visualizations is the most important and then talking about mandalas. As long as you're talking about visualization and saying your opinion, that will get you marks and that'll be absolutely fine. If you are stuck, like I said on the other tasks as well, let me know, guys, and I'll get back to you as quick as I can on those. That's the end of today's lesson, guys, so you should now be able to confidently say what visualizations and mandalas are and how they are used. You should also be able to explain how they help a Buddhist, so why they're doing these things, what do they get out of doing them. And then you should have done the last activity. It's very important, that last activity, because it's revision and it's showing that you really grasped the above, saying which practice out of all of the ones we've looked at so far in all the other lessons do you think is the most important, and saying why. Hopefully you're absolutely fine on those, guys. If you have got any questions, please let me know. But the work you're sending in, like I've said previously, is absolutely brilliant and you're doing a great job. So keep up the good work, guys, and stay safe. See you soon.